And hello, my name is Howie Silbiger. This is the Howie Silbiger Show right here on the True Talk Radio Network. So happy to be here with you, and so happy that you could join me, and we could share a little bit of time together. It's to me, it's important that we spend some time together, that we talk, and that we get to understand, how we are all coping with this terrible thing that we all have to live through. It is a horrific thing that we're living through, and I just wanted to I wanted to talk to you about it. I wanted to understand that we're all in this together, and I know there is a pretty dumb concert happening, a pretty dumb Canadian concert happening right now as we speak, and I'm glad that you decided to join us instead of listening to that concert, because because it's more fun to be here with us. It is more fun to be here on the Howie Silbiger show. That's the way, at least that's the way I feel. I don't know about the way you feel. It's the way I feel. In just a couple of minutes, we'll be joined by Sheldon Eric Freed. He is my long-suffering producer. He'll be joining me in just a couple of minutes. And of course, you are always welcome to call in. 1-877-669-1292 is the number to call. 1-877-669-1292. A couple of things that I wanted to tell you about, just so you know you understand what I'm talking about here. There was a problem we had, a small problem we had with the stream, with the audio stream that we have. We had a slight problem with the stream. Last couple of shows, the stream was warbled. And I like that word, warbled. It's such a great word, the word warbled. It was warbled. The audio was warbled on the stream. And when we played back the archives the next morning and then throughout the day, the audio was warbled. There was a problem. There was a problem with a piece of equipment I had installed here in the studio. It was a brand new piece of equipment I had installed in the studio, and there was an issue with that piece of equipment, and that equipment did not allow me to unwarble the audio. I wanted to. I had every intention of unwarbling the audio and not having it warbled for you. See, we'll just keep using the word warbled because I like the word. Where I did not want it to be warbled. But that's what happened. It was warbled. And so it was weird though. And the weird part about it was that the audio, when I replayed it through the software that replays the show, the audio got warbled. But if I listen to the MP3 file from the recording, it sounds fine. So I don't know how that happens. I don't know why that would happen. I have no idea. I tried playing with it in a different audio editing software, and that didn't really work. And so I don't know. I don't know why that's happening. But anyway, that's what's happening. So be it. But this show here, we fixed the problem. I fixed the problem. I worked on it half a day today, figured it out, fixed it, and we shouldn't have that problem anymore. So if you're listening on the stream on True Talk Radio, on the True Talk Radio Network through the app, this is going to be actually listenable. You'll actually be able to hear what we're saying. One piece of equipment that we haven't been able to figure out yet, we're having a little problem with, is the telephone lines. The telephone lines work, so you could call into the show. Unfortunately, Sheldon will not be able to hear you. So I'm still working on that. By next show, I should have that worked out. But right now, Sheldon won't be able to hear. I'll be able to hear you, and Sheldon will not be able to hear you. So I'll be able to respond to your calls. Unfortunately, Sheldon, not so much. At least not this show. But that's it. That's it. Everything else is working fine. Thank God. So let's go to Sheldon. Let's bring him on because he's standing by and he's sitting by. He's not standing. He's sitting. I can see he's sitting because you'll be able to see him in a second too, and you'll see he's sitting. He is sitting by, and his name is Sheldon Eric Freed. He is my long-suffering producer on the Howie Silbiger Show. Hi, Sheldon. Thank you so much for taking your time on Sunday to be here. And if I push this button, I'll be able to hear you.
It is a pleasure. How are you?
I am excellent. How are you, sir?
I am very well, and yeah, I'm. This is a work done in progress
Yeah.
when it comes to the audio stuff and the audio
But
details.
you know,
It's a work in
it's
progress.
always been a work in progress. Even when we were on the AM station, it was a work in progress.
It was always well. That station was a work in progress, which had nothing to do with you.
There was always some technical problem. I mean, every show we have a little bit of a technical problem. So I'm happy that most of it works. If the worst thing in the world is that you can't hear the callers, well, that's the worst thing that happens, right?
What'd you just say?
Yeah, exactly my point. So we already got messages on Facebook. We've already gotten a couple of comments on Facebook. We haven't even started the show yet, which is great. I
All
love
right,
that
that's
people
what
are
makes me
commenting.
nervous.
All right, so Baruch asks, at what point do we become a country that can't afford to stock our pharmacies with antibiotics? The average person in Chad dies before his or her 49th birthday. You think deaths by strep can't happen in the USA? Is this what we want to return America into? You can't have a strong healthcare system with a crumbled economy. The first thing you do if you want a strong healthcare system is to build a strong economy. If we hollow it out, the life expectancy of Americans will go down. No ifs and no buts. I'm for life. I'm for economic solvency. It's not greed, it's national self-preservation. So he's actually responding to something we haven't spoken about, which I think is great. Um, he's imagining a conversation that we haven't had yet.
Well, at
Uh,
least I know I'm not in trouble.
but so I think it's great, and I love the response. So let's have that conversation. Um, I was speaking to a friend the other day, and she has arthritis, and she uses one of these drugs that President Trump has been touting, the hydroxychloroquine, that drug there that Trump's been talking about for weeks now. She used that
Okay.
drug to regulate her arthritis, and now she cannot get the drug because since Trump started touting the drug, since the president of the United States started touting the drug, people have been crazy. You know, the hoarders are out there, and they've been hoarding the drug, and now the drug is not available for her to have for her arthritis treatments. So she's walking around in pain because she can't get the drug.
Hmm.
It's exactly what Baruch is saying. That here we have a situation where you have a big you have a big country, you have a couple of big countries, and and pharmaceuticals are not available in these big countries. A, because they're manufactured in China, most of them, and B, because people are hoarding stuff, and it's hard to get supplies when people hoard. Sheldon.
Well, let's put it this way. When it came, remember the old when the toilet paper, all of a sudden people started hoarding toilet paper and then people had trouble getting toilet paper.
Yeah,
It's always a question, and when people start panicking, that's exactly it's what this person said. It's self-preservation because you're trying to see what you're able to get in case there's a severe shortage. So people what they call stockpiling stuff, and that's exactly what happens. Once you get
but the
into a
people who are
panic
stockpiling
mode,
stuff, Sheldon, are creating the severe shortage.
that's it, exactly. So that's what it is when it came to toilet paper or medications. As soon as somebody says something, whether or not they're a doctor, they're not a doctor, and there's a person is very very popular and very a lot of people tune to that person, and a person says something right away. People are going to go and try to get as much as possible, and for the people who do need it, well, then they can't get access to it.
Yeah, that's what's happening. Look, if you need toilet paper today, it's very hard to find toilet paper.
You can't get it online. You have to go to a store, and you got to be lucky that they stock it on time.
Yeah,
And that's what's happening with online groceries. That's what's happening with everything. Anything that people are going to need. I mean, I was doing online shopping even before this whole thing happened with COVID-19. I was doing online shopping, and at 99.99% of the time, when I ordered something, they would have exactly what I wanted,
right.
and they would call in case they didn't have it. They would call me if there was a substitution. If they needed to substitute something, they would call me. Now they won't do that. Now you're lucky to get half your order.
Yeah, half your order, and you're lucky that they don't substitute with something 5 times the price.
Exactly, or they'll substitute something that you don't even want to even have.
Yeah, that too.
So that's the thing. So like this is what we're into right now with the COVID-19, and this is what scares a lot of people because in this region alone, there's only two stores that will ship orders directly to you in terms of groceries, full groceries. So like Walmart will certain things they will ship, and a lot of groceries they will not ship. and go try to even get those items
Well,
from Walmart.
try to get a delivery time from anyone these
Yeah.
days.
And then when you go into either IGA or Metro, the grocers in this area, you have to wait for 2 weeks or a week to get your order.
Right.
If you're lucky that they have a window, if they have a window, sometimes it's all grayed out.
Yeah.
So they don't want people to go to the grocery stores, but yet you're going to need food. People need food to survive.
Look, I tried online grocery shopping this week because I hadn't done it before, and I tried it this week because you encouraged me to try it the last show. You said, Howie, try it out and let's give a report on how it happens, right? And what happens. So I went and I got a delivery slot.
Oh, you did.
Right after the show, I went and I got onto my computer. I was sitting at the computer here, and I got onto one of the grocery sites, and I looked for a delivery slot, and I got a delivery slot for tomorrow. So this was last week's show, last Sunday. I got a delivery slot for tomorrow morning. So it's 8 days later.
That's right. That's better than some of the days I got. Sometimes it was 2 weeks.
And so I put in an order, a modest order, because I don't really use a lot of groceries. So I put in I live alone. How much grocery do I really need? I put in a modest order, and I know that at least half of the order that I put in is not going to show up. I'm fairly sure that I'm not going to get most of it.
Well, good luck. I'm actually anxious to find out how much of your order what you ordered and what you received.
So I will see tomorrow when it gets delivered, if it gets delivered on time, which it probably won't. But if it gets delivered on time, I'll see tomorrow what they send. But I can guarantee it's not going to be everything I ordered.
No. And especially if you order toilet paper, chances are you probably will not get toilet paper.
I didn't order toilet paper. I don't use that much toilet paper. I'm one person, right? So, so about a few months ago, I went into Costco and I bought one of those 80 rolls of toilet paper packages they have.
Yeah.
The ones that you saw people putting 10 and 20 into their carriages. Because everybody needs 1,600 rolls of toilet paper, right?
Well, that's exactly my point. Why are people stockpiling like this? It's not like God knows it's an H-bomb that's going and you're not going to have access to anything.
Yeah, really. We live in a big city.
We live in a big city. People have to stop panicking to that point. Look, there's talks now about, depending on where you live in Canada, where we're broadcasting from, that the premiers of each province are trying to have different plans to try to jumpstart the economy.
Right.
And so once that happens and once things start to slowly progress, I don't think people are going to panic that much. Like, people will start feeling a little bit better and they'll feel that they'll be able to slowly get their lives back to normal. Look, but it's still going to take a while.
I read a couple of articles in the last couple of weeks that the toilet paper manufacturers said, we have plenty of toilet paper. We just can't get it to these stores quick enough. The stores can't stock them quick enough. Yeah. And then the flour companies are complaining that they could produce as much flour as you need for the country. There's a shortage in flour in the supermarkets. You can't get flour. But the flour companies say they have plenty of flour. They just don't have bags to put them into because it's non-essential services. The company that produces the bags is considered non-essential, and they're not manufacturing bags. So they have the flour, but they don't have bags to pack it in.
Oh my God! Seriously?
Yeah, this article appeared yesterday. So I said, really? They have the flour, but they don't have bags to pack it in. So there's a shortage of flour. Why don't we fix this problem? I mean, it seems like an easy fix here.
I didn't even realize that was a problem with the bags of the flour. That's bizarre.
It seems like a bizarre problem to have. But this is welcome to COVID-19 land, right?
Oh my God.
So the more you read and the more you hear about this stuff, the more ridiculous it starts sounding. I mean, it is pretty ridiculous if you think about it.
Yeah, and I know a lot of places in the States, some of the states are looking forward to jumpstart the economy. Places in Canada are planning to put plans into action. So I guess within the next week or two to follow, or the weeks to follow after that, it's going to be really interesting to see what's going to start happening and then what the implications might be. And the thing is, I think all governments are walking a very fine line. Because everybody wants life to be back to normal. You and I want life to be back to normal. But then where do you draw the line, the balance, to make sure that there's no second or third possible waves of the COVID-19? And you know what?
Hey, look, if there's going to be a second wave and going to be a third wave. This we know is going to happen, but we can't live in fear our whole lives. Okay, you can't live
I
inside.
agree. Yeah.
Frank writes, our whole home stocking mentality has to change. We're used to buying something whenever we want to. Now you have to do medium-term inventory planning, always
Yep.
booking a week ahead, like a boat that only comes to port once a week. And he's right. He's right.
Yeah.
He's right. But
That's exactly what I'm doing.
it
That's
shouldn't have
exactly
to
what I'm
be
doing.
like that. Is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
If everybody would have bought normally, the normal supply chain would still be working properly.
The thing is also there's not enough grocers that are doing online shopping, and the pressures on the ones that are doing it are enormous.
Yeah.
So that too doesn't help. So yes, you have to. That's exactly what I've been doing. Like Frank's been mentioning, is the fact that I now have to plan my grocery shopping each week.
No, you have to plan for a week ahead. You have to.
Yeah, a week ahead. Exactly.
You have to guess what you need next week.
Yeah, exactly. And my freezer now was filled up to the, because I was getting bagels and stuff like that, because there was some orders I couldn't even get bagels. I could not even get bagels.
Wow.
They didn't have bagels. I tried different brands of bagels and they didn't have. And then one time I got 4 dozen bagels, which are fine. But like everything else, I had to forecast fruits, vegetables.
Yeah.
And then
And then hope they don't rot on you by the time you get around to using them.
Well, that's the thing. And I tried to order bananas. There were 2 orders that I've ordered that they didn't even have bananas. Last month, I tried 2 different grocers. I put the bananas in on the order.
Yeah.
And when I would get the email the day that the order was being prepared, and it would be marked what's not available, bananas were not available. Bananas.
Amazing.
So it's like, and then all of a sudden I would get bananas, and then I would order again because I don't know if they would have or not. And then I would get another bunch of bananas.
And then you have too many bananas.
And then I have too many bananas. So it's like, it's very hard to gauge because you don't know from one week or another what's going to be available, what's not going to be available.
Frank says he can't get his cinnamon bagels. Desperate times indeed. 1-877-669-1292 is the number to call if you want to get in on the conversation. 1-877-669-1292. I don't have anything that I really need or care about all that much. I have a hard time getting bread. That I'm having a hard time finding. So I'm baking my own bread. Because I'm very handy in the kitchen, so I could do these kind of things. A lot of people can't.
You bake your own bread?
I bake my own bread.
Okay. All right. Put in an order for me.
So baking my own bread means I don't have to go out and buy bread. I don't have to worry about it. I make my own rolls and make my own bread. I don't have to worry about going out to buy bread.
Great.
And it's always fresh because I make it whenever I need it. But I'm running out of flour. So here we go. It's a big circle, right? It's a never-ending conundrum here. No flour, no bread.
That was so funny when you told me about the bags. I mean, nobody would have known this.
I read that story and I was like, what? And I read the story a second time because I couldn't believe what I read the first time. And there it was, again, the second time, the same story. Because, the printed word didn't change.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
I know people have had trouble getting flour, but I just didn't think it was because of the bags.
Well,
I thought it'd be the same thing like toilet paper. People were hoarding on flowers and were trying to make more stuff at home because now people aren't going out to restaurants and,
yeah,
and stuff like that. So people are trying to make more stuff at home.
Yeah.
So,
but if the manufacturers don't have bags to put stuff into,
yeah,
they can't sell it.
I'm even curious to find out if that's going to be the case. I'm even scared to find out what about the bags that let's say the grocery stores put in, like the paper bags. What happens? Who makes the paper bags? If they run out of paper bags or if they run out of plastic bags, what are you going to do?
Well, a lot of the grocery stores can't use plastic bags because the city of Montreal banned them.
Yeah, and also a lot of them won't even let you take your bags in, your non-perishable bags.
Yeah.
Or if they do, you have to pack them. They will not pack your order.
Right.
If they even allow you to bring in the bags. So if that's the case, and the city of Montreal's banned plastic bags, what happens if they run out of paper bags? How are you supposed to take the stuff home?
Well, I'm assuming that you're not taking stuff home at that point.
And then again, what happens if they can't? Well, at least they bring you into the red. They put their grocery order in on the red plastic bins that they'll bring, and they would put the paper bags in the bins. Yeah. What happens if they run out of paper bags? What happens then? If that's going to happen with flour, is that considered a essential service? The grocery bags?
It's a very good question. I have no idea. And, it should be. It should be because this is getting essential needs to people. I mean, we all have to eat.
Well,
This is
that's
food.
it. So now if they're having problem with flour, I mean, and if they're like this is a really scary situation. Now I'm really curious to find out. You and I were talking about this earlier off the air about the schools,
Yeah.
and in this neck of the woods, I mean, I heard from authority, a person that I spoke to before, I spoke to earlier, and he lives in the province of Ontario, and he was telling me their provincial leader was saying that the schools were not planning to open up until the end of May.
That's right. May 31st, which means
Yeah,
that's totally pointless to open the schools altogether,
exactly.
since schools
So the thing
generally
is,
end June 25th. So
yeah.
you're going to open up for a month? It
So
doesn't
what
make
does that
sense.
mean? Does that mean Toronto? Does that mean Kapuskasing, Ontario, Hicksville, Ontario,
Well, yeah. If,
somewhere?
if it's Ontario, if the premier of Ontario says closed, the entire province is closed.
Yeah. So, but if the schools are going to open up, are they going to open up systematically, or is every school going to open up at the end of May?
Well, every province has their own method of
Yeah.
doing things. So I don't know.
And the thing is, too, you're talking about the two most populous cities in Canada, Toronto being in the province of Ontario, Montreal being in the province of Quebec, which are the two most highly affected provinces, Ontario and Quebec. And the city of Montreal and Laval, very highly infected areas. Where I live is one of the hot zones.
Yeah.
Where I live, I'm not sure if, yeah, you're also in the hot zone because you're in the same neighborhood as I am.
Yeah.
And then I would think that the schools will not open up in this particular area of the city.
I'm
And actually,
guessing. I'm guessing the schools in this area will be closed till September or
yeah,
October.
and my girlfriend teaches. She lives in the West Island, and she teaches in the school in this hot zone near where I live. So we're all, and you're a teacher, she's a teacher, and we're also worrying about even if the kids don't have the virus themselves, they will be carriers, no doubt, of the
Well, I
virus.
don't know. They say they want to use
Yeah,
immunity. I don't like being compared to a sheep. That's first of all.
I don't like
And
it either,
and
and there
second
has
and second of all, they want to use the kids to test this, and I don't like
yeah.
using kids as guinea pigs. So
Exactly.
I mean,
And
it's
I don't
just
and I don't want the teachers or adults to be used as guinea pigs either.
that too.
And furthermore, there has not been extensive enough research, and even our own Canada's health minister,
Yeah, she was very skeptical. The head of the health department.
yeah, and she did not agree with that. And the Quebec health minister was thinking of doing this type of herd immunity.
Yeah,
And like it's preposterous.
it is preposterous. Brian says Ontario said no school till September, so maybe they changed it
Oh,
early today.
okay.
Early today, I saw May 31st, but now Brian says no school till September. Maybe they changed their mind. Things change so quickly; it's hard to keep up with it.
Well, day by day, I mean, our announcement here in the province of Quebec is going to be on Tuesday. So we're all going to be we're really going to be listening very intently to the 1 p.m. press conference of our premier to find out what the story is, what the implications are. I mean, my guess is they'll probably start some of the schools in like Hicksville areas, like very, very small populous areas of Quebec
Yeah,
that has very limited, if any, cases of COVID-19. And they'll start opening up companies or like small town mom and pop businesses and schools. That as long as their particular population was not affected, they'll be safe to open up. They'll probably still keep traveling areas like blocked in terms of you can't go into that region unless you live in that region. Um,
Frank just commented. Printers who do work for food or pharmaceutical clients are classified as essential in Quebec. The shortage is probably due to spike demand. He's probably right.
Very possible. I mean, anything is possible with all these spike demands. Things that we usually would take for granted that there'd be plentiful are now very scarce, are very tough to get a hold of.
Yeah, Paul says Quebec should not send kids back to school. I agree with him.
Well, I think what's going to happen too.
I'm a teacher, and I'm highly skeptical that any kids will show up to class if they reopen the schools in late May or mid May.
Yeah.
And I'm highly skeptical that parents would want to send their kids into an incubator for this virus.
Well, the
It's basically
premier
a
also
virus
said
incubator.
that they were not going to force not going to force the parents to bring their kids to the school,
Then what's the point of opening them?
exactly. And the thing is, a lot of parents plus the teachers unions are very much against it. They, like yourself, like myself, do not want to use teachers or kids as guinea pigs, and I think that's really 100% wrong. And I think that, you know, it's not, if they were to open up the schools in September, we can have everybody going back also in September at the same time, unless there is a definite trend that the amount of people being infected of the virus and deaths are completely down now. There were still 97 deaths in this province the other
Well,
day.
look,
There's over
90% of the deaths are in old age homes.
yeah.
And aside from that, if you take a look around the world, the death rates are dropping everywhere in the world. So as we progress into this life after COVID, we're noticing that deaths, the numbers are getting less and less. Even in New York, numbers are getting less and less. So so it's just a matter of time before it runs its course.
Yeah. And that's the thing. My biggest question is, it's a very delicate balance, a very delicate line that a lot of people have lost their jobs, a lot of people have lost businesses. And, there's such a fine line in terms of starting the economy versus the health and safety of everybody. Because, like you said, and I agree with you, we can't live like this for the rest of our lives.
Nobody wants to live under house arrest for the rest of their lives.
Exactly. And nobody wants to, wants to keep staying home and not even able to go out and do their normal thing and, even get together with friends and, get together with loved ones. I mean, I haven't seen my mother since March, and my mother's 92 years old. I haven't seen my mother in March. I hardly seen my girlfriend. I haven't seen my kids since before I left to go away on Aruba.
Yeah.
And I live near my kids. I don't live far from my mother. My girlfriend, for the exception of her bringing the odd bag of groceries, I haven't seen her either. I live by myself like you live by yourself. And I mean, the last couple of days I took some walks because it was a beautiful day. But it's obviously when you're looking over your shoulder and you keep looking to see where your distance are, there's even a truck that's from the city of Montreal. I don't know about in other cities in our broadcast area that listens to us. But there's a truck, I don't know if it's from the provincial government or the city of Montreal, that actually has a truck that's circulating different areas of Montreal. And they actually could see that you could be filmed from a truck, and also to see if anybody's walking near you, what the distance is between you and the person that's coming near you.
They're measuring the distances between.
They're measuring the distance. It's not like they're arresting you. They're just showing you. Like, if they see like you're 1.5 meters apart, you know to back away and go a little further, and you'll see it. It's not like an instant arrest, but it's showing you where you should be versus they're not giving you tickets from that truck. They're not finding you. They're not having police coming out of the truck and arresting you, but it's showing you, it's like some of these speed signs that you go and you say speed limit is this, but you're doing this.
But they are giving tickets for people who are not walking the safe distance. I know people have gotten tickets.
Oh, you know people for a fact that have gotten tickets?
Yeah.
Okay. I haven't seen that many police cars around this neighborhood, but again, for the most, I'm nestled between two parks and really haven't seen anybody really going, all congregating together or anything like that. It seems like the people in this area, for what I've seen anyway, have been respecting the distance, have been respecting the social and physical distances.
Brian Bellerose, you know Brian Bellerose? He used to work
No.
for B'nai B'rith. He's a Native American. He lives in a small town outside of Toronto.
Okay.
He posted up earlier today that he was sitting in the front of his house, on the stoop in front of his house, just getting some air. He hadn't gotten air in a long time. He's pretty much he's immunocompromised, so he hasn't gone out at all.
Okay.
So he went out. He lives in a small apartment building. He went out in the front of his apartment building, and sat down on the stoop in front of the apartment building. He said for an hour or 2 hours he was sitting there. Nobody passed him. There was nobody leaving or coming. Nobody passing in the street. Nothing else. He says a cop car stopped and the cops got out and they came to talk to him and told him that he's not allowed to be outside. And he said
not allowed to be outside at all?
And he says to them, "What's the problem?" They said, "Well, social distancing." He says, "Well, I am social distancing. There's nobody here." He says, "Look around. There's nobody around." They said, well, you have to go back inside. And they forced him to go back inside. So he went inside, and
Wow.
he went and sat on his porch, which was less than 6 feet away from the house next door. So they forced him to leave a place that was deserted to go and sit in a place where everybody was sitting on their porches, and he was less than 6 feet away from the person next door to him.
Oh my God.
Okay, so this is how ridiculous it's getting. We talked about the story. I don't know if were you on the show when we talked about the 17-year-old kid in Ottawa?
No, no.
Ah,
I was not on the show.
17-year-old kid, a diabetic kid in Ottawa, decided that didn't decide. He needs to get exercise every day. He's diabetic. Diabetics should get exercise every day.
Yep.
And so the community center was almost next door to his house, like not far from his house. And one day he decided to go out to the community center. He went out there and he started shooting hoops in their yard. And there was nobody else there, and nobody bothered him. And he went home. The next day he went out to shoot hoops again in that yard, and two bylaw inspectors from the city of Ottawa approached him, and they said to him, "Hey, you're not supposed to be here." So he says, "Well, there's nobody else here. What's the problem with me shooting hoops in an empty court? If there were other kids here, I'd say, okay, you're right. You know, we're not social distancing, but there's nobody here. So what's the problem?" And they said, "Well, you can't be here. Nobody's allowed to play on these courts." So he says, "Fine, I didn't know. I apologize." He picked up his ball and he tried to walk away, and they stopped him from walking away. They said, "You can't leave till the cops get here." So he
I
says,
thought that was the cops.
"No, it was the bylaw inspectors."
Oh, okay, okay, okay.
So he says, "But wait a second. I guess they're security for Ottawa security."
Okay.
So he says, "Well, but I'm leaving. You told me I can't be here." I said, "I apologize for being here. I wasn't aware I wasn't allowed to be here. It was always public ground, but now you told me I can't be here. I'm leaving. I apologize." And they said, "You got to wait for the police." And he stood there and he waited for the police, and the police showed up and they gave him a $700 ticket.
Whoa.
Okay? The kid went home crying that he got a $700 ticket for playing basketball by himself in a basketball court.
Oh my goodness gracious. Oh, that's awful.
Okay?
That's
So I really feel that they're taking this one step too far. You know,
one step too far?
The fascism,
I think it's 20 steps too far.
The fascism is starting to come out here.
Oh, that's ridiculous. That's unacceptable.
I'm not much of a conspiracy theorist. You know, anyone who listens to the show for years knows I'm not much of a conspiracy theorist. But this kind of fascism makes me think that a lot of what's going on, a lot of these policies that are being passed, a lot of these forceful activities that we're being forced to do is a result of politicians trying to exert their authority rather than safety.
Well, there was nothing ever that what Trudeau said. I don't know about Doug Ford, the Ontario premier, ever said about that type of law enforcement in terms of social distancing. I know they were saying for gatherings, that I understand. Like you said, if the kid said if there was somebody else that were playing hoops, he would know right away to respect the social distancing, and he would go home or step away from where they were,
He told them, he says, "I'm diabetic. I'm immunocompromised to start with. I wouldn't want to be around people at this point.
Yeah.
If there were other people here, I would have left. I came here to exercise because my disease forces me to exercise. It's the only way to get my blood sugar down."
Well, basically, what I've been doing too, like I've been walking pretty much around the premise where I live, and also because I'm nestled between two parks, which are very close to where I live.
Right.
And basically, that's it. I don't walk very, very far from my place. I don't do that anyway because in case I get questioned by the police, and I don't want to take a chance in getting myself a $700 ticket and up.
But you are allowed leaving your area. You don't have to stay within 3 blocks of your house. We're not.
Yeah, but
we're not
I
confined to our houses.
Yeah, no, I know that, but also because I'm also a diabetic, and in case I'm thirsty and whatnot, so I know I don't want to get too far anyway. But so I'll go around like 3 or 4 blocks, walk around like 5, 6 blocks within the circumference of the area where I live in. And then I'll sit on a park bench. Yesterday, I was like sitting out in the back of where I live and just taking in the sun. And then I went out on the balcony late yesterday afternoon. It was absolutely fantastic and had such a tremendous energy because getting out, we live in a climate, unfortunately, that we don't have warm weather all year round. And the weather's been so lousy in this area. Plus, on top of social distancing and everything else, you almost felt like you were a prisoner within your own house.
Right.
And it's like, people want to get out and look, like yourself, like myself, we would love to get our lives back into normal. I mean, look, this year a lot of major festivals have been canceled.
Yeah.
It's obviously unprecedented. We've had 4 major festivals that's hit the city every year. That's very, very popular. It gives billions and billions of dollars in the local economy, the tourist economy, and everything. And it's to the point that people. It's a new completely reality, and it really scares me as a person that we might have to really change our way of thinking. Look, I would also think too that a lot of people are working from home now that are able to work from home. Not everybody
Yeah,
can.
I hate to break it to you, Sheldon. A lot of people are going to their offices. There are a lot of people going to their offices.
Well, I mean, I know my cousin, she works for an accounting company, and that's considered as an essential service. So she has to go in. And
But
obviously,
but a lot of people who aren't essential service are going to their offices.
yeah, but if they get caught, they could wind up in really bad shape. I mean, there's always going to be exceptions. There's always going to be people that are going to disobey
You know
any
what
law.
really upsets me about this whole thing, though. I'll be honest with you.
Hmm.
It's how crazy some people have gotten, where they feel that they are responsible for enforcing the bylaws as regular citizens. So you have people screaming at people on the street. You have people
Yeah, snitch lines, like
snitch lines. You have
Yeah,
it's so disgusting.
it is disgusting. I mean, also, and people don't even realize, like, this is what happened with a yeshiva family that was called by the police later to find out that they all lived in the same house.
Yeah, I mean
And
it's
that people had nothing else better to do but to snitch on a family that lives together. They don't know the family. They have no idea who these people are, but they just decided, I'm going to snitch on them.
yeah, and that's happening all the time now.
Yeah, it's happening. It's happening all the time, and to people that have big families, whether or not they're Jewish or not Jewish, and right away people are saying, "Oh, they're all having these big gatherings," but they don't realize that they live together. And there's a lot of religions. There's a lot of people that do live together. They
I was talking to a Muslim friend of mine the other day, and he was telling me that he has 7 kids,
Mhm.
and with his wife and him, it's 9 people in the house. And they got called. The cops are called in their house almost every 3 days. Somebody's calling the
Oh
cops
my God.
because the kids are playing in the yard, and the kids are, and he has older kids and younger kids, and they're playing in the yard, and they're all around the property. They're not leaving
Mhm.
the property; they're on his property, right? But it looks like a large gathering of people because there's 7 of them. And so the police are called. He said every 3 days they get the cops called. He says,
Yeah.
why can't the neighbors just mind their own business?
This is just fueling hatred, you know, even bigger than it was before. Now people are using it as an excuse. If they didn't hate people before, they're hating them now, and they're snitching on them.
I,
So they're
I
saying,
I'm not a hateful person, Sheldon, but I'm starting to hate a lot of the people who are really trying to be police about this. And it's not their business to be police. The police are out there, security's out there. We don't need them to be the police. But people who are really starting to get on my nerves, there are a lot of them.
well, that's what it is, and they use that as an excuse, and then the next thing you know, they're saying, "Oh, I'm doing the right
It
thing."
makes them feel important. You don't
It makes
understand.
them feel important, yeah. And I think that's wrong. Also, I think that's really, really, really wrong, because you really don't know when people are together. You don't know if they're part of the family. Look, I saw yesterday in a park there was a family, and I knew, like, it was a picnic. So there was a mother and father and 2 young kids.
Yeah.
Okay, so what they did was they had a picnic in one of the parks near me. So they had 2 different, like, blankets and everything. They put their food down and everything like that. They were all in a corner of the park minding their own business. No police went up to them, whatever.
Yeah.
And then I would say to myself, this is nice. The kids are playing around. They're minding their own business. They're quiet. They're having a good time. They're laughing, whatever. The parents are watching the kids, that the kids are coming over. They're giving them the food and everything like that. Nobody's bothering them. I don't see no police are approaching them. Nobody's giving them and it's like, and I say to myself, my God, this is the first time in, like, because the weather's been this nice and people are going to the park and actually having a little bit of freedom, something that they haven't had in months, especially since this thing hit. And now people are starting to go out and, they're trying to have a certain semblance of normalcy here.
Yeah, well, people need to feel a little normal.
Yeah.
Look,
Yeah, you have to. I
look,
mean, we're not.
the city of Côte Saint Luc asked last week. They posted up that they wanted people to follow traffic on the sidewalk. So if traffic was going north on the sidewalk, they'd want traffic was going north on the street. They'd want that side of the sidewalk to go north too, and the south
Okay.
side people would walk south. So people never came face to face.
Okay.
So
That's good.
one-way sidewalks. I think it's great. What a great initiative.
Great
But,
idea.
but it takes time to roll this out. And for a city the size of Côte Saint Luc, 33, 34, 39,000 people living in the city, it takes time to get the message out to people. You can make
Yeah.
robocalls and you can send out emails. But before people start, it takes a couple of days, a couple of weeks before people start actually understanding what you want and living up to it.
Yeah.
You know how many people I've heard screaming at people for walking the wrong way down the street?
Oh my God.
You know how many people I've seen posting on different chat boards, screaming and screaming and screaming that people are walking the wrong way? It's a great initiative, but give it time. People need time to adjust to things. And we're all stuck in our homes. You can't expect people to understand everything like that on a snap. It doesn't happen.
And also, this has never happened to us before.
That's right.
That's why when I said to you last week, this is all unprecedented. Yeah, this is the first time we really had to batten down the hatches. Having virtual standstills in major metropolitan areas around the world,
Right.
and being stuck in our homes and then doing things that we never did before, that we never ever thought. This is something coming out of movies.
All right. The mayor of Côte Saint Luc, Mitchell Brownstein, just commented, "We need to have patience and respect each other," and he's 100% right.
Absolutely.
Mitchell is 100% right. We need
Yes.
to respect each other.
I
Have
wish
patience.
people would respect each other.
Have patience. Eventually, the word will get out. The city of Côte Saint Luc, I have to give him credit. And I'm not just saying this because Mitchell Brownstein's listening. I have to give them credit. They have been excellent in communicating with their citizens. They have been excellent in keeping one step ahead of the pandemic.
Yeah.
They have a volunteer association there that has been going out and delivering groceries to elderly people. They've been packing groceries in a private grocery store. They've been volunteering their time to pack groceries in a private grocery store so that elderly people could eat, to get food in a timely fashion. I have to give them credit. You give credit where credit is due. This
Yeah,
city has
absolutely.
been unbelievable in their reaction to this pandemic.
They lead by example, and other cities should follow.
And they really do, and they are the hotbed. I mean, this is the area that has probably the highest percentage per capita of COVID-19, plus positive results.
They're the second. They're the second most in this area. Is the most.
Right.
Coconut, Snowden, and NDG. They have the most, and Côte Saint Luc is a very close second that I saw from the last stats that I saw.
So
But-
I have to give them credit for that, right?
Yeah,
But
absolutely.
But like the mayor said, you have to be patient,
Yeah.
and you can't expect people to just follow on the fly. Nobody just follows on the fly, right?
These are unprecedented times, and this is extraordinary measures that we're all doing. There's difficult adjustments that we're all doing, but like Mayor Brownstein said, we have to learn to respect each other. This if we didn't learn to respect each other before, if this does not teach us to respect one another, I don't know what will.
Yeah, really, we have to really change the way we see things.
We have to change our complete way of thinking. We have to change the way. Look, you know what? Every day I reach out to my family. My family reaches out to me. We all, like usually when people are in their regular routines every day, a lot of times people just don't reach out. They're too busy.
It's true.
And
Sheldon, Mayor Brownstein writes, "This is the beginning of a long road. Israel's opening up now, and they have decided to require masks for everyone over the age of 7 to protect others. I think
Yeah.
that's great. And I have to tell you that the city of Côte Saint Luc already recommended that people who go out in public wear masks. Not to protect yourself, because the mask is going to stop you from getting COVID, but it's going to stop you from giving it to somebody else.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But also at the same time, people got to remember, and the health minister said this, and everybody said this, this does not stop anybody, whether you have a mask or not, you still wash your hands.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
And people think, I'm not saying some people, it's not all, some people think that when you wear a mask, oh, I don't have to worry about washing my hands, or I don't have to worry about this or whatever. And a lot of the masks, let's say, that are not disposable, that you have the carbon filter inside,
Yeah.
you do have to wash them. You have to wash your masks.
I'm still wondering, before this, how many people percentage per capita were washing their hands? I always wash my hands. I work in food. I wash my hands all the time. But how many people?
I always did. When I always came back from anywhere into my apartment, the first thing I would do is wash my hands.
I really found it odd that we had to put up signs to explain to people how to wash their hands. This came across a little odd to me. But I mean, I guess if people don't know how to do it, we have to teach them. But it's just a little odd that people weren't washing their hands before this.
Yeah, but here's the thing too, and I'm sure you've seen it in the emails when it comes to different supermarkets and different restaurants and our transit authorities and everything like that. And they're saying about that they're taking extra steps in cleaning. And I'm saying to myself, okay, people use mass transit. There's thousands and thousands of people using the buses, the metros, the subways, whatever. There's people going in grocery stores that shop. There's thousands of people at Costco and other big box stores and everything like that. You mean to tell me if they're saying right away that they stepped up in their cleaning, what did they do before?
I'll tell you, Sheldon, I worked in a hospital for 5 years. That place was the filthiest place I've ever seen in my life. They had cleaning crews, and their cleaning crews went around, but they cut budgets. The first thing you cut in a budget is the cleaning crew. They're not the essential staff. And so every time they cut budgets, the cleaning crew got cut. And every time the cleaning crew got cut, the place got dirtier and dirtier. And this is the place where you're supposed to go to get healthy. So I can imagine if the hospital's dirty, the buses and these metros and everything else are filthy. I can't imagine they're not dirty.
Yeah, I mean, this is the thing too. I mean, I've seen kids anyway. What do they know if they sneeze to cough, and if they sneeze or cough, into their sleeves, whatever. They sneeze in their hands, or sometimes they don't even put their hands at all, and germs go all over the place. I mean, it's up to society now to say, listen, if you weren't that hygienic before, you have to be more hygienic than you've ever been before, and even after this thing finishes, because if this is one virus, who knows down the road, and God forbid, I really hope I'm wrong on this, what's to prevent other viruses to happen like this? And I hope to God, I could not be, I wish I could be wrong on this, but what does this tell you? Like you said before in conversations we had last week, that yes, we've had the swine flu, we had SARS, so we've had viruses. So this is what, we add this to the other viruses that plagued us throughout the years and, in history and everything like that. What's to happen if other viruses are going to happen, or second or third strains of these viruses? I mean, a lot of every government around the world was completely taken by surprise. It doesn't make a difference if you're right, left, center, which party, which government, whatever. Everybody was taken by surprise. All governments were taken by surprise. We have to learn. We desperately have to learn from this.
Well,
we can't afford to have something like this happen again.
The virus is not discriminatory. They don't care who you are, how old you are, or what religion you are.
Yeah,
the virus.
I mean, any politician that's going to be very, very proactive and do whatever it can to safeguard their citizens, that's who I have the respect for. It's not the time to play partisan politics, but at the same time, we have to be very vigilant, and we have to make sure that all governments are now going to be aware that something like this can very well happen again.
And probably will.
I
can't imagine it won't.
And the thing is, if this is any indication, who knows down the road? I hope you and I, like hundreds of thousands of years, and our future generations don't have to experience this anymore. And
hey, look,
this is really
the last major epidemic we had. I know we call it a pandemic, but it's actually an epidemic now. The last major epidemic we had was the 1918. Which virus was that in 1918?
Was that the bubonic plague, or was that the?
No, it was the bubonic plague. Was the 1700s?
Oh, sorry. Okay, not. I don't know. It's 1918. I don't know.
It was the 1918 plague. I'm drawing a blank here.
Okay.
But the one in 1918. Where they where they quarantined people, and that was the last time we had to quarantine, right?
Okay, so that was way before our time.
So you're talking 102 years. ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what is this? Like, are we going to wind up being like the boy in the plastic bubble? That we're going to have to go out and always have a bubble around us, always have a shield around us.
Oh, you
I mean,
can't
look,
live like that. Come on.
local taxis are now being with plastic shields. Cash registers and supermarkets are now being outfitted with plastic
I hate to
shields.
break it to you. It should have been like that from the start.
I agree with you, but I'm saying now, we're now. That's why I'm saying when I said governments were behind on so many things, well, yeah, they should have, especially when you're dealing with the public all the time, coming in contact with thousands of people. God knows what they have.
This should have been done a long time ago. The companies that deal in taxis, the companies that deal in groceries, didn't want to spend the money to put this stuff up.
Yeah.
But this stuff should have been put up a long time ago.
Well, now they have no choice. They have to do it.
And it's going to be up there forever. It's not coming down.
Oh, no. If they're already putting that kind of money in, rest assured that's going to stay up. That's going to be in that, that's going to be it at all. Look, even in this building that I'm living in right now, only deliveries of food are allowed up. Any deliveries, even so much as Amazon or anything else, in the lobby, they will not bring any parcels upstairs to any of the apartments in this building.
Right, so you have to go down and get them if you want them?
You have to go down and get it, yeah. And like once I get the notification that it's delivered, I go downstairs right away. Or in many cases, my superintendent, if they see a package for me, he'll call me and he'll say, okay, it's there downstairs, and go and get it, and fine. And I appreciate that, and I thank him. But it's like it's now, everybody's scared in this building.
Thankfully, it was the Spanish flu in 1918.
Yeah. Okay, Spanish flu. So
thank you, Stuart Nolan, for correcting me. Thank you.
Hey, Stewie. Yeah. So I mean, I'm really scared as a person, my age and everything like that, and also I'm really scared, like when I go outside, and the thing is,
are you scared of this virus? I mean, I know you're over 60, so you're in the age range where you should be scared of this virus, but are you really scared?
Not only in the age range, but I'm also have a compromised immune system. I'm a diabetic.
Right.
I'm very scared. Of course, I'm very scared.
How have you changed your life, aside from staying at home all the time? How have you changed your life to try to avoid contracting the virus? And when you go out, how have you changed the way you go out?
Well, I make sure also when I'm walking to make sure that that's one of the reasons why I walk very close to the house too, because if I have to get back home, if I see there's a influx of people, I'll right away go straight home. So that's why in terms of my distance and my proximity where I live to where I walk, that's how I changed my way, because I used to walk long distances. I used to take a lot of long walks. I used to go from, well, I don't want to start saying because it doesn't matter. But I'm saying, like, I used to walk fairly long distances, and I remember I used to take the march to Jerusalem all the time. So I used to love to walk. And but now I can't. I can't walk that far because I'm really worried about coming into contact with anybody. So far, like I've said to you in the last couple of weeks, people have respecting social distances.
Okay, so let me ask you this question. After this is all over, how will your life have changed? What are you going to change in the routines that you usually do to protect yourself? Are you going to change anything, or are you just going to go back to the way it was?
Well, I'm not going to go back everything to the way it was, because I've always washed my hands, so that's never going to change in terms of my hygiene. That's
but that's stuff you did already. I
did that already.
What are you going to change in your routine?
Well, if things get back to normal, maybe go like more long distances, like take walks in other areas, go into other areas. I mean, obviously, I would like to be more mobile than I am right now.
Are you going to think twice? Are you going to think twice before renting a car? Are you going to think twice before going to a movie?
Definitely renting a car, yes. And even taking transit, unless I really have to go into a job where I have to go during peak rush hour.
So you're gonna hold yourself back from going into crowds of people, even after this is all over.
I'm going to try as much as I possibly can. I mean, if I have to, I have to. I mean, that's the reality as it is. We live in a major city. We don't live in a small town. If I have to, I have to, but I won't be as, shall we say, as willing as I used to.
Right. So your life has changed. Your life has changed exponentially.
Well, it is. I mean, let's put it this way. I think I will probably feel a lot more secure, or I'll feel better once there's actually a vaccine. But that could be in another year at least from now. So maybe until that vaccine comes out, and I think that's probably the way most people are going to feel. that especially that have compromised immune systems, because they also say, look, when it comes to the flu season, they always suggest that people with compromised immune system get the influenza shot.
Okay, but if you think about the influenza shot, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. It's a crapshoot every year.
Yeah, it always is a crapshoot, but at least, I feel better to the point that.
So basically, you're saying you just want to be psychologically soothed. It doesn't really matter if it works or not. You just want to be psychologically soothed.
Well, I would like it to work, obviously. But psychology does play a big factor, because it's always psychology is a big factor in how a lot of people perceive things. I mean, there's no two ways about it. That people want to have that sense of relief, that I want to have that sense of peace, and yes, it is psychological, and it's also physical. So, that's. I mean, if I have to go, let's say, into the downtown portion of the city once things clear up, I will go into the port. I won't refuse going into the city, but I will think twice about going, and I'll say to myself, do I really need to go badly? Is it something that I could wait till off hours? Is it something, but if I have to, let's say, work in the downtown core, then I'll work in the downtown core. I'm not going to refuse an opportunity if I have to go into downtown core, for me to make a living. I have to make a living.
Right.
To that point,
I was never much into groups to start with. I don't know if you've ever noticed, but I generally don't go to places that have a lot of people.
I don't either. I mean, the time that we go, and I guess, and you and I do the same thing, is the Just for Laughs. When we go down, there's a lot of people into the downtown core.
But that's work, and work is work.
Work is work, and we also have fun. We go to the shows, and
but that's work.
Yeah, and that's work, but that's fine. Like that. I'm not going to change that. I don't have any plans to change that. I don't think you have any plans to change that.
No.
But I would say, if I don't have to go down for a particular reason to go into the downtown core at rush hour, well, I'll go at another time. I'll go in off-peak hours.
Right.
Versus at one point, I didn't care if I went down during rush hour. I went, got what I wanted, and came back home.
Now, what about groceries?
It's going to be a different story.
What about grocery shopping? Will you change the way you shop for groceries?
Well, I was doing online groceries even before this happened, because I don't own a car, even though I'm a licensed driver. So I don't, I usually in many cases would do the shopping online anyway. And usually I never had a problem with shopping online, because they always, 99.99999%, they had my stuff.
Right.
So I never had a problem with it. So I would order it, and I would order it one day, and the next day there'd be a window there, and I would get my order delivered the next evening or the next day. So fine, so I won't really, as I said before, I'm not going to change my online shopping, because when you don't have a car, it's convenient. Let's face facts.
Definitely.
Or I would go down to my local grocery store and then have them, just take it for home delivery, pay for the order, and then get it sent to my home.
Right.
So, like that kind of stuff. But right now with online shopping, obviously I have not gone into a shopping center since March.
Well, they're all closed. You can't go in there anyway.
No, but I'm saying, like, even the grocery stores. I have not gone into a grocery store.
I'm thinking. I've been thinking a lot about the billions and billions of dollars of stock that are sitting in stores that are closed in shopping malls, and the amount of money people are losing.
Yeah,
and it's heartbreaking, really.
It is very heartbreaking, and I really feel for the mom and pop businesses. I feel so bad for these people. A lot of the bars, the restaurants that that are had to close. I mean, even though our prime minister has tried to do things, there's still a lot of holes where businesses fell, and they still are out of business. They still have to pay rent. They still have to sit on their inventory, because their inventory is not moving, and they have to pay for that inventory.
Yeah.
They have to pay for the upkeep, the electricity, and all the maintenance, in keeping up a business, and they're not getting any revenue. And I feel terrible for these small to medium-sized businesses. I feel bad also for students that are, let's say, in university, that usually count on their jobs to help pay back some of the student loans, or to pay their tuition fees to go back in the fall. And now they're not going to have jobs going on. Now, here's another thing. I'm in an employment training program. I was supposed to have a stage in May. That's not going to happen. And I was supposed to have a stage at a hospital near me. That's not going to happen again.
No.
So where's that going to be? Where is my course going to be canceled?
Well, I'll tell you what happened with my stages. I was finishing off the teaching degree, and I had one stash left, and right when we started the stash, this whole thing broke. And so what happened? Um, they canceled the hours for the stash. The government canceled the hours, and they replaced it with some assignment work. So we
Yeah.
had to do a couple of assignments, and that solved the problem.
Yeah. So, and then what's going to happen with, like you said, if the schools are going to open up at the end of May, like in Quebec, they finish usually just before the national holiday of the province.
Yeah.
I don't know when they finish in Ontario, if it's about the same time or not. I don't know. But the thing is, they're going to start school only for a month later. Like,
it seems ridiculous.
It's preposterous. And they have to give you 2 weeks notice. So the thing is that the announcement's going to be made on Tuesday. For the first region that he's planning to open up, and I know Saskatchewan has a 5-point plan in terms of getting their citizens back to work.
Yeah.
And so I could see that the provinces want to start jumpstarting the economy, but they got to do it. They got to really be very careful in terms of how they plan to do it and who's going to open up first, what businesses are going to open up first.
Yeah.
And there's a very, very, very fine line. And I would not want to be in the politicians' shoes right now in making that decision. I really wouldn't want to be in that position.
Well, look, the state of Georgia decided to open up everything. So they lifted all the restrictions in the state of Georgia. Mm-hmm. So everything opened yesterday. So we'll see how that experiment goes.
Well, the thing is, too, the states are a lot more decentralized than Canada is.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
So it's always been like that for years and years and years.
Well,
matter what.
Since 1774. Yeah.
Yeah. So the thing is that in the states, one state could make and the federal government is not going to care to speak of. They're not going to have that centralized power that, let's say, Canada would have, no matter who's running Canada. So the thing is, like, Trump's not going to care. Obama didn't care, or like if it would have happened to Obama or Clinton or Reagan or whoever was president of the United States. So it wasn't a question of that. So the question is, like, if this is going to be successful, if everything's going to open up, I don't know what in terms of what they had in terms of viruses, what their counts were, what their data was. I don't know. I don't know if you could access it on your computer. Is it safe to open up everything at the same time? I don't think so.
I don't know. I'm not a scientist. I have no idea.
Yeah. So that's the thing too, and that's what I'm wondering too. That again, you got populous cities like Atlanta and Savannah, and and Augusta, Georgia. So what are I'm sure Atlanta was affected. Atlanta being their biggest major city in Georgia. So who knows what's going to happen? And I wouldn't want to be the guinea pig that has to go into work or has to go into an office or goes into a school and either get myself infected or infect other people.
Well, I'm going to be one of those guinea pigs. If the schools reopen, I'm going to be forced to go back to school.
Yeah.
And if I go back,
that's a shame.
And if I go back to school, I'll be teaching at high school.
Yeah.
So I'll be teaching 13, 14, and 15-year-olds, and we'll see what happens, right?
And again, I mean, I don't know. Have you heard of any of the parents of the kids that are your students from the school? Have they reached out to you? Have they said anything to any of the staff members? Has the school board said anything, that they received anything?
Nobody said a word to me yet.
Okay, well, I guess you're going to find this out probably once an announcement is being made, and once we know in the Montreal area when the schools are going to open up, I guess that's when you're going to find out things.
Well, that's when they'll make a decision whether they're going to open the school or not.
Yeah.
But theoretically speaking, I would be forced to go back and teach whatever students showed up. Now, I told you before, and I've made the statement before, I'm pretty sure that I had COVID-19 in December. I'm pretty sure I suffered from that. We had this discussion last week, where I had all the symptoms of COVID-19 in December. I ended up in the hospital. I'm pretty sure that I suffered from that. It took me forever to recover from whatever I had. It could have been the flu. It could have been COVID-19. I don't know. They weren't able to diagnose it. The hospital wasn't able to diagnose what I had at the time, which makes me believe that it might have been this virus. If that's the case, would that make me immune? I don't know. They haven't been able to prove that immunity is actually real.
Could that make you immune, or could it make you also a carrier?
Well, they say if you build up the antibodies, you're immune.
But are you also a carrier? Like, can you? Would you could you be considered a carrier of COVID-19 if you did have COVID-19 and you build up an immunity to it and you're over it? But does that also mean you could be a carrier of it?
I have no idea. Once again, I'm not a scientist. I don't know.
Yeah, that's something also that questions have to be raised. There was also talking about the possibility, but Trudeau nixed it right away, about what they call immunity passports. That if people had the COVID 19 that were actually diagnosed and was tested positive for COVID 19 and they're over it, they get what they call an immunity passport.
Okay, Sheldon, we got a call. You're not going to hear it, but I'll take the call.
Okay.
All right, let's go to the phones. Hi, who's calling?
Howie, it's Aaron. What's up?
Hey, Aaron, how's it going?
I'm doing all right. Howie, is Sheldon there too?
Yeah, Sheldon is here, but he can't hear your call. He can hear my side of the call, but he can't hear your side of the call.
Okay.
I'm having a little problem with the telephones, so that's what it is.
Yeah, not a problem. Yeah, this is. I just wanted to give my little 2 cents.
Yeah.
As quick as I could about this whole thing. I complete disregard for whatever you were just talking about. I heard you got sick, but it has nothing to do with that.
That's okay.
Yeah, I was thinking to myself today, because I've been, thinking a lot. I always like to think, and I always like to, put things into perspective. And, obviously, this quarantine has shown us exactly what it is that we as humans take for granted, which is, very common.
Yeah.
That was very much expected. But I think what my main concern is how there's a very blurred line in terms of how of especially in Canada, I think, where we're not really seeing the disparity or the separation between the science and the politics. And the reason why I'm saying that is that, and don't get me wrong, I think this whole morale boosting, shorten the curve, collective effort, promotion is very beneficial. I think it's.
But Aaron, you realize that shortening the curve is only to protect the hospital system from overloading.
Exactly.
It has nothing to do with the amount of people who are going to get infected.
My main concern, however, is I think just the fact that I made a post on Facebook. You could check out. Maybe it suits your, whatever, if it suits your view. But it's just the fact that I don't. I made a slight little comparison to World War One, in the post, and I was talking about how Germany, despite not being the ones directly, causally responsible for World War One starting, they weren't the ones that assassinated the Archduke, I believe. Yeah. They were still ultimately held responsible since they were the ones that really enabled this all to come to that whole war and the casualties to come to fruition. At the end of the day, all sides had sustained casualties, but the fact of the matter is, people, and it's written in the Treaty of Versailles, pointed the finger at Germany. And I'm saying this because I think, with all this said and done, when a vaccine hits, the shelves and stuff, I'm really worried how much of these regulations and legislations are going to stay. And I feel like that's something that's really, talking about taking things for granted and, our freedoms and it's something that really, comes into question.
You make a great point there, and it's something I worry about too. We've lost a lot of freedom. We've given up a lot of freedoms to try to protect ourselves. But how many of them are we actually going to get back? Some of the stuff is not coming back.
Well, that's the thing. I think that's the big issue. Like, what I think is despicable is the fact that it's okay to rat on your neighbors for not practicing social distancing and labeling it as an act of fulfilling your civic duty. However, and there's so many double standards, I don't even want to get into that, but it's considered wrong and immoral to say, hey, Trudeau shouldn't have let flights from China come in for such a late amount of time, and it's seen as wrong to say that, hey, China did not, act with due diligence.
But it's true. Usually what's considered wrong is usually the truth, right?
Yes, I mean, look. At the end of the day, no one in any situation is perfect, but you have to understand that. I think this whole, this progressive, I think the idea of that, like I was just watching on the radio on 92.5 or one of them because they have this whole, we are the world type, thing going on, and you could tell, it's everyone's all the focus is that our efforts of staying in and doing what the government says is what's going to bring this to the end, not a vaccine or treatment,
right.
Which is what actually. And here's the thing: is that people are. I just think people are. They're not understanding. They're deferring to the government as the ones who control whether. I just think it's ridiculous. It puts a lot of things into perspective, and it's. I don't know. That's very wrong, though. I think in some places how they're incentivizing being a snitch.
Yeah.
There's no integrity in that whatsoever. Or just on the radio they say, well, I save lives every day. I'm a hero. I play video games and I stay inside. Well, hey, if you don't drive drunk, are you saving lives every day too? No.
I agree with you. You're 100% right. Let me ask you a question, Aaron. You're a championship wrestler. Is this going to change? Is this going to change the way that you live your life? Are you going to stop wrestling over the COVID-19?
I'm working. I'm finding better ways to work out. I see this as a time I see this as an opportunity bestowed upon us by Hashem. That's my take, obviously, on it. But I see things as happening for us, and I think this is a chance for me to work on more coordination-related things. But
are you afraid to go? Will you be afraid to go back on the mat with someone?
Absolutely not. I want to go back on the mat with everybody. There's nothing to fear but fear itself.
That's true.
I think that really, and that's something that I don't think people are total. Like, look, there are, you do take measures to mitigate as much as you can. There's no.
But it's hard to mitigate when you're rolling around on the mat with someone.
No, yeah, exactly. I understand that, but it's. I just find that, like I said, at the end of the day, I just feel like it's hard to. There's a lot of blurred lines between the politics and the objective science, whatever that may be. I really don't know. I just think that a lot of this is really it's very political, what's going on, and it's a very big social factor, and I don't think people understand also from an economic perspective as that how much of unless China is held liable for this in some type of way, they're going to come out of this on top higher than anyone, technically.
Well, one of the conspiracy theories, and I don't subscribe to conspiracy theories too much.
Yeah,
but even though I wrote a column called Conspiracy Theory for years, but I don't subscribe to the conspiracies very much. But one of the conspiracy theories out there is that China unleashed this virus so that it could become the superpower of the world to knock America off, and I don't think it's that far fetched.
It's not far fetched. Like at the end, I don't like. Here's the thing: is I think that look, if you think that China didn't act on this with due diligence and as proactively as they could have and as they, should have. If you don't think that there was other incentives behind that, when you're talking about a communist regime that is trying to exercise control over the entire world in some way or another, and not to argue the morality in that, I think every country, that's their way of doing things, fine. But if you think that, there's people that the majority, the government is not looking at this situation in terms of deaths or like especially the Chinese government. They're paying attention to after. They're not really paying attention to especially a country like China.
You're 100% right. Aaron, thank you so much for calling. Appreciate it.
Take care. Ciao.
You too. All right, 1-877-669-1292 is the number to call. 1-877-669-1292. Unfortunately, Sheldon couldn't hear that call. Sheldon?
I heard a little bit of what he said.
Okay. Good.
Yeah, I heard a little bit of what he said. But the thing is that, I agree. I could see that Aaron wants to continue his life, wants to get back on the mats.
Yeah.
And wants to be able to, and you know what? I give all the kudos in the world for him because he does not want to change his life. And maybe that type of strength and determination is something that I could rethink about and be able to do things. But I also have to temper with the fact that I have I have a compromised immune system, so I got to be careful.
And you have to understand that you're 3 times his age too.
3 times his, okay.
You are. You're almost exactly 3 times his age. You're actually exactly 3 times his age.
I don't suppose you're trying to make me feel good, eh?
No, I'm just stating a fact.
Yes, I see. I
Yeah.
see. Okay. Yeah. But
Because I know how old you are, I know how old Aaron is, and you're exactly 3 times his age.
okay. Thanks very much. I appreciate
Yeah.
that. But anyway, just to put matters in perspective, unbelievable. To put matters in perspective, I really have to give kudos to Aaron that he wants to restart his life. He wants to, continue. And you know what? I give all the credit in the world to Aaron and people who do want to continue and, get a jump start on their life. And I think but we still are going to have a lot to learn in this society. There's going to be a big learning curve here, and we're going to have to really rethink a lot of what we have failed to do in the past, and now we're going to have to safeguard us as well as our future generations in the future.
So, Sean, what about athletes? I mean, they all work within close proximity. Look, wrestling hasn't stopped. WWE wrestling, the fake wrestling, hasn't stopped, and they're still, still fighters are fighting each other, and they're still throwing each other around. They're still lying on top of each other and whatever else, right? The spread rate in the WWE is very low. We haven't heard very many wrestlers dying of COVID-19 or being extremely ill from COVID-19. So I'm wondering, if only a certain segment of the population gets this thing, and 90% of the deaths in Quebec are in old age homes, is it really a danger in reopening society and allowing people to mingle? I mean, the only reason. One second. Let me just qualify this with the only reason that we are staying at home is to not overload the hospital system with too many sick people. The doctors and the scientists all agree that everybody in the province is going to get this eventually. It's just a matter of time. Is there really a point in all of us staying home if 90% of the cases are in old age homes, and the only deaths that are happening pretty much are in old age homes? And it's only 0.001% of the population that are being affected.
Well, I guess we're as society starts getting back to normal, I guess we're going to find this out. I mean, these are answers. These are questions that we're going to find this out when we do eventually get back and we do resume some normalcy here and see exactly what the implications are going to be. Are things going to peter off, and are people going to build up an immunity, and are there going to be other segments of the population that could be more vulnerable just as much as the seniors? We don't know, because like you said, most of the people are staying home also to keep the hospitals from being overloaded.
Well, that's the only reason we're staying home, by the way.
Yeah. So the thing is, if that's the case, and when people start going back to work, then it will be that question. Will the hospitals get overloaded? Will there be a spike in cases? Will there be, who knows? I mean, we won't know until things slowly start getting back to normal. But to err on the side of caution, as I was saying, the best thing for restarting the economy is starting at places where the implications are not as it's not as risky as the major centers. Then we'll see where we go.
Let's look at a study that came out of Los Angeles, San Francisco, California, where they did antibody tests on many people in San Francisco, and the extrapolated results of that antibody test was that even before this quarantine started, over 300,000 people in San Francisco were exposed to the coronavirus, to COVID-19, before the quarantine, right?
Okay.
Their hospital rate is no greater hospital rate than any other state. Their death count is no greater than any other state, but they've had 300,000 people who have been exposed to the virus. At least their extrapolated data says that 300,000 people were exposed to the virus. If that's the case, and that's just a very limited case, and it hasn't really been peer reviewed or anything else. That's just a study that came out. But if that is the case, and that represents 0.0001% of their population, how dangerous is this virus really?
We don't know, but there's other major centers like New York City that has a lot worse cases than San Francisco does.
Well,
in terms of hospitalizations and in terms of, I don't know. I mean, this is the first I've heard of it, and again, this is new to many people. This virus, and there's so much data that's coming out, and things are changing hour by hour, minute by minute. Never mind day by day, Howie.
We talk about this. I've just been corrected. 70% of deaths in Quebec are from senior citizens' homes, not 90. So it's 70%. We talk about this, and we talk, and the media talks about this, and they give you death counts every day, and it just magnifies the thing. But when you think of a population of a few million people, 3-4 million people, and how many deaths have you had? 1,000 deaths. What's the percentage really? You're not talking a huge percentage. And so by magnifying it in the media, it builds the paranoia of the population. When it's really more people are killed by influenza every year than have been killed by COVID-19.
Well, you know how much media amplifies things, Howie.
Yeah,
that's
of course.
Nothing new. I mean, that's
when the media sees an opportunity to make a profit, to turn a profit on something, they amplify it to the max.
Exactly.
So that's what they've done with
what
this.
It is.
That's what they've done with this, and it's freaked out politicians. It's freaked out everybody.
It freaks out everybody. Yeah.
And that's really what's happened with this COVID-19. Because if you take a look at it in perspective compared to other diseases, I mean, it's really a small disease. But the difference between COVID and all the other diseases, as 100 people have just pointed out to me, the difference between COVID and the other diseases is that you could be a carrier and not know that you're a carrier.
Exactly. And then
that is the difference between this one and the other ones.
And the widespread implications of how many people can get it from you as being a carrier, because in many cases, the people that are carriers don't have the virus.
Right.
And they think that they feel perfectly normal. They don't have a temperature. They don't have any kind of symptoms from the COVID-19, but they're carriers of it. And that's what the real scare is. The question is, who carries it? Who's susceptible about it? Look, I think there was a child in the United Kingdom. What is it? A 6-7 month old baby. That baby has had the virus. The baby had to undergo quarantine. Had a mask.
Yeah, I remember that.
Who knows who can get what? And again, it's also compromised immune system. It's not just the elderly people. You could get, if you have a compromised immune system, doesn't make a difference how old you are. A compromised immune system is a compromised immune system.
Definitely.
So if you could be 18 or you could be 80 years old, you've got a compromised immune system. Obviously, the older you are, the more likelihood that you could have even more adverse effects and perhaps even not even survive it. But you could still be in very bad shape and be hospitalized for weeks.
For sure. Mark just said, we are protecting our fathers, mothers, grandparents, and those with compromised immune systems, and our healthcare workers and essential service people. That's who we're protecting by staying home. But are we really protecting anybody by staying home? That's the question.
Well, if people are carriers of the virus and they don't know that they're carriers of the virus, but they're staying home, yes, they are protecting people.
We're assuming everybody is a carrier of the virus.
Well,
what if it's only 1/4% of the population or 1/8% of the population?
But here's another thing too.
Is it fair to punish everybody? And why don't we just quarantine the people who have immune system problems? Let them stay at home, so they're not exposed to this, and let everybody else get back to work.
But there has to be a lot more testing, and that's what the governments have to come up with. There have to be a lot more testing. Like, in other words,
they're just tightening the restrictions on people. They're not doing more testing, and that's the problem.
No, they want to completely, like even the odds, or like lower the odds of a person being infected. But again,
I saw an interview of a guy yesterday on CNN, and the guy said, "Listen," he said, he was in close proximity with somebody who had COVID-19, a confirmed case of COVID-19. He was within 5 feet of the person. The person was screaming at him, and he went to his doctor and he said, "Hey, I have to get tested. I was in close proximity to somebody who had this disease." The person was screaming at me, and I felt his spit hitting my face. And he couldn't get a test.
Well, this is the thing. It's just like I was saying about buying groceries.
They asked him, "Do you have any symptoms?" He said no. He couldn't get a test.
Well, that's the thing too, because even let's say they test you, if you're a carrier and you don't have the virus, you're not compromised with the virus itself, but your carrier will not show up on the test. That's the problem. That's exactly what they said the problem is. Let's say you get tested. Let's say, for example, somebody comes or let's say for argument's sake, let's say somebody just comes up to you, they give you a test on the street.
Yeah.
you're walking or you're just coming out of your car. They give you a test. You're perfectly normal. You have no symptoms of the COVID-19. Knock on wood, everything's fine. But what the test does not reveal is if, in fact, you are a carrier of the virus. That's the problem. If it would be able to tell, the test would be able to also illustrate if you are a carrier besides you having the virus, then you could be able to differentiate who can stay home and then who can go to work. But again, let's say
so are we
you go
saying
to
that
work,
if they don't devise a test that's going to be able to determine who is a carrier and who's not a carrier, we're
That's the
never going to
problem.
go back to work? Is that what you're saying?
no, that's not what I'm saying. But at the same time, again, let's say you're fine and you go back to work. You're not even a carrier. You don't have the virus. You go to work. Let's say you take public transportation. You come across a person that's a carrier. Then you get the virus going into work. Then what happens?
You have the virus.
And you got the virus. And then that means, and then eventually you're not going to be able to go to work because let's say if you are going to have the
So that means if you're a normal person without an immune compromised system or without an underlying medical condition, chances are it'll be 3-4 days of hell and then you'll be back on your feet.
But here's another thing too. This was another thing that was said earlier on. I don't know if there's been a lot of updates to this, but let's say if a person already had the virus, they're over the virus, they're back to normal, everything is fine. Is their immune system compromised to the point, like let's say if they get it again from another person?
Well, there has been no documented cases yet anywhere in the world of somebody having the virus twice.
Okay, because that's another thing too, that we don't know if anybody has gotten it, if it's been proven. Maybe it will be down the road that person can get it again. That's very possible, especially if you're in a very populous center and you're taking public transportation or you're walking with crowds of people or you're working in a big office building with a lot of people and you're, working for the employer. Who knows? I mean, there's a lot of unanswered questions that you and I just don't know. And there's a lot of things that this is still fairly new. Don't forget, this is just over a month to speak of.
6 weeks.
Yeah, 6 weeks. So there's a lot of things that have not been, it's still fairly new,
It's
like
very
to
new.
us. So there's a lot of unanswered questions. And these are questions we're all going to ask as a society. When are things going to get back to normal? When are you and I and most other people going to feel comfortable in getting back to a completely normal life like we had before? Canada.
I'm pretty sure we're not going to get back to a really normal life like we had before for a very long time, Sheldon.
Yeah, and the thing is, what's going to happen for traveling when people, let's say, we're going to start traveling, then the borders open up? What's going to happen? And people are going to go back, to places where they went before. I mean, I literally got back a week before all HELL hockey sticks broke loose. I just made it back, and it really, there was no problem when I was there, as I told my mother and other people.
Yeah.
There was no problem at any of the airports. Hardly anybody was wearing a mask. There was hardly any talk about it. Even on CNN in the hotel lobby, there was hardly any talk about it because it hasn't really reached full force in North America yet. And then all of a sudden, a week later, the schools get canceled. A lot of businesses get shut down. The streets are deserted. Look what happened in such a very, very short time. And there's still questions going out in leaps and bounds. And there's research and there's questions and people questioning other people's research. We're so afraid of our shadows now. It's ridiculous.
So how do we get over this as a society? What do you think?
It's one word. It's time. Time will heal to the point that we will have to learn, like you said, it's going to take a very long time for things to get back to the way it was. And there's going to be things that have changed, that we had to change before, that's going to stay like this. Like you said, the plastic barriers, the barriers between a person and a cashier, a person in taxis, a person, different ways of thinking. And
do you think anybody's ever going to shake hands again?
People will shake hands, but again, they'll, the people that, let's say, they know, like people in their family that they know they have good hygiene. A total stranger, maybe not. Maybe they won't. They'll do like they do in other countries. They'll bow, or they'll just, they'll just hit the elbow type of thing, or not the knuckles, the old Howie Mandel trick.
What about the two cheek kiss?
Well, if you know the person, yes, I suppose. But if you acquaintances, no. I guess it's all about knowing who the other person is, and knowing what the person's hygiene and what the person's, characteristics are. That'll get back to normal. But for other people that are not as well known to you, probably not. No.
All right. So Mark says there has been tests that a small number have it twice, but they're not sure if the second one means they're still contagious. So maybe there were a couple of cases where people got it twice.
Okay. Well,
I haven't heard of any people who got it twice. I haven't heard of any cases of people who got it twice. I've read a lot and I've watched a lot on this, but I could have missed something. It's possible.
Yeah, and I don't know, like if they have the data when people do get tested positive for COVID-19, is there anything that's in the data saying the person got tested for COVID-19 a second time?
Right. I have no idea.
So we probably don't know that, other than the fact that the person, it will show up as a person got tested, another person got tested, but may not necessarily show as the same person being tested. It would be in the files of the government, of course, and in the RAMQ or in OHIP or wherever,
right.
It'll be in that. But in terms of the public data that's released to the public, no, that's no.
Nothing I've seen so far anywhere on any media has told me that that there are a lot of people who've gotten it twice. But I could be wrong.
But again, if a lot of people are staying home and a lot of people are practicing social distancing, chances are it's reducing the risk. As they say, there's nothing like the unknown. So what people try to do is they try to negate as much as they possibly can the effects of exposure.
Right.
So if they try to do it like that, and knowing that the only thing is to stay away from people, that's going to minimize chances of being in. I mean, let's face it, if you walk on a crowded street, you're going to have a much bigger chance of you being infected. Only
if someone coughs or sneezes on you.
Yeah, but again, you don't know if you could be in hundreds of thousands of people. There is a chance that you're going to have a greater chance of somebody coughing and sneezing than you would, obviously, if you're walking and there's one person that's near you or something like that, or obviously if you're in the friendly confines of your home.
It's true.
So governments, I think, are trying to say, look,
but
we don't understand this fully.
But Sheldon, we can't live in paranoia for the rest of our lives.
I know that, but don't forget, this is new. So the thing is, when you get a new situation, people are paranoid because, as they say, there's nothing as scary as the unknown.
But it's 6 weeks already.
It's 6 weeks.
6 weeks.
I know, Howie. I would love things to get back to normal, just like you. But again, people are very nervous, especially seniors are extremely nervous now. And the data has shown that a lot of seniors have gotten sick and have died in homes, situations that the workers got exposed. In Quebec and Ontario and God knows where else in the world. I mean, people are frightened. People are scared to death. People are scared to death. And that's what's going to take, the adjustment, a period of adjustment. And I do believe that things will slowly start to get back to normal, but the word is going to be slowly. Do I want things to get back to normal? Of course. I don't want to stay in prison in my home or not being able to get together with family, friends, and loved ones and everything. I want to see my kids. I want to see my girlfriend. I want to see my mom.
How long do we keep the world under house arrest?
I don't know. You tell me. How long do you think we should keep the world? What do you think should be done in terms of how do we get this thing started? How do we get the confidence in people that we can start to get our lives, started? But how do we have to protect ourselves too, but at the same time, we have to live our lives. We have to be able to go out to make a living. You have to be able to go and teach. Kids have to be able to eventually go to school. We have to be able to go to work.
Yeah. I
mean, this is what it is. We live in an economy. It's an economy. it's a capital and it's an economic driven engine. We have to go to work to make a living. I mean, there's no two ways about it. Otherwise, how are we going to live? And it scares each and everybody, including myself, including you.
You know, the government's giving out these subsidies now, but eventually they're going to run out of money.
Well,
when they run out of
the,
money, then they're not giving us subsidies anymore.
Well, the thing is, too, here's another thing. No government is even counting the money right now. They're trying to give whatever they can because they're trying to do things as fast as possible to jumpstart the economy. Now, I remember when
but
we
the
had
government
the
is
recession,
going to run out of money, and eventually we're going to have to pay this money back. So that means an increase in taxes. That means new taxes and increase in taxes.
I know. Look, none of us wanted this. Look, none of us wanted this to happen. I didn't want this to happen. You didn't want this to happen.
No.
The person next door didn't want this to happen.
I mean, don't get me wrong.
You know what?
Don't get me wrong. I don't mind the vacation, okay? This long vacation is very nice. But really, I'd prefer to be working.
It's nice to have a vacation when you appreciate, when you go back to work. It's like when I came back from vacation, I came back to, my training and everything like that. And it was a great week to be off, great week to re-energize the batteries. And then all of a sudden, this happens.
Yeah.
So it's like you and I were discussing, like, what do people do in their spare times now where we couldn't do before because we were actually working? And then we figure out things. Well, there was a lot of things we would put on hold because we couldn't do when we were working, but now we have the time to do it. So we're so immersed with things that we put on the bookshelf on the shelf, and now all of a sudden we had this thing that we were procrastinating for years because we just didn't have the time to do it when we were working and doing our normal activities. Now we're doing it.
I have a project a day, right? One project a day, and I plan out my projects every day, and I try to do one thing a day.
Yeah.
So my house has never been cleaner. My closets have never been emptier. And, this is what I'm doing, right?
The most important thing for anybody is to keep always your brain active at all times. Like always, never be in a, never be in a rut. Always find something to do. And now that the weather is getting nice too, and it's good for the health and welfare for each and every one of us, and no government is going to say no to this. Go out and take a walk. Go out on the balcony, get some fresh air. You have to, not that I want to sound like a poet or anything, but, listen to the birds, take in the sun, take in the breeze, take it, pump your lungs with outside fresh air. The air has never been so clean in the city.
It's true.
I mean, let's face it. So try to take advantage of it. Try not to be in a rut. Try not to, because that's the worst thing anybody can do right now that are in that situation, to be in a rut and not do things and to wallow into self-pity. It'll be the downfall. And that's what people just cannot afford to do. And that's why a lot of people, they're doing it more than they ever did before. If you probably take polls and statistics of how many people now call people in their family and call their friends and loved ones and people that maybe used to work with, or people that were either in your industry or friends that usually you wouldn't have the time to speak to before. Now you have the time to speak. Reach out. It'll mean the world to so many people. And the art of conversation is very stimulating. And you know what? It'll make everybody feel better in the long run. And you know what? Things will eventually get back to normal. I'm a person that always likes to believe that the glass is half full, not half empty. And I know things will eventually get back to normal. When and where is anybody's guess. But I'd like to think that things will get back to normal. It might be a new normal, nevertheless.
It will definitely be a new normal.
Yeah, it will be a new normal. That's for sure. But at least people could be able to go to the offices, go to the schools, be able to, go out to parks, play an activity, play baseball, throw around the baseball with your kids. If you have kids, things get, back to normal. And
I'll be perfectly honest with you, Sheldon. I do not miss a lot of the things that the world had to offer before this shutdown. The world had descended into a moral gutter, and I don't miss that at all.
I don't either.
And suddenly, people aren't fighting as much as they were. People aren't arguing as much as they were. People aren't protesting as much as they were. And I don't miss any of that.
I don't miss any of that either. But you know what? I think now people are realizing we have one common enemy, or I like to think that people are realizing we have one common enemy, and that's this stupid virus. But you know what? It does not make a difference what race, creed, color, or religion you are. It's affecting people's lives.
Yeah.
And whether or not you are a Republican, a Democrat, a liberal, a conservative, whatever, it's affecting everybody. It's affecting societies, people the world over, our cities, our towns, everywhere. It's affecting people. And people have to now realize that this is going to make people think to the point that, hey, listen, we have other things to fight, and it's not within each other. It's viruses. It's these deadly diseases that are killing innocent men, women, and children, no matter what religion they are.
You're 100%
It's
right.
killing people. This is what people, and like you said, I don't miss what happened because the world is a very evil thing, because there's been so many people that have killed innocent people for whatever their agenda is. And you know what? Maybe now it's making people think this to realize how life is valuable and how sacred life really is, and the innocent people, the seniors that are dying.
And I'm willing to bet, Sheldon, that when we go back to normal life, and when things start going back to normal, things will just switch back on the way they turned off. They'll switch back on.
Some yes, and I think some no. I'm not going to say everybody's going to be, thinking the same way when things get back to normal, but I think some people will. And if some people will, then you know what? Change is a good thing in terms of that regard.
I agree. I agree with you.
If people think that, like, if some people change, if 10,000, 100,000 people, 1 billion people out of 7 billion people in the world, it's change in numbers for the good, for the world, for everything, for the integrity, Sheldon, for the society, for the peace of
Sheldon,
mind.
as you know, change starts with one person.
Yes, and it starts going from one, and it's strength in numbers, and one goes after the other to the other. So
if you think this virus is contagious, change is more.
Well, the thing is, and if positive change comes out of this, and I'm sure more than one person is going to feel this way, then in certain aspects, we turn the corner for the better. Is it a complete turnaround? No. Will it be a complete turnaround? I wish, but no. Not in our lifetime anyway. Maybe not in my kids' lifetime, but hopefully down the road, people will take a look twice and say, you know what? Let's think about what we're doing to each other when there are no viruses. Never mind what viruses are doing to one another.
No, one could only pray and hope.
That's what we hope. That's, I like, along with anybody else in this world, like you, want things to get back to the better, like, to get as close to normal as possible, and for positive change for the better.
Sheldon Eric Freed, that's it. We're done.
Thank you, sir.
I want to thank you so much for being here on the show with me, Sheldon.
Always a pleasure.
I want to thank everybody listening to the Howie Silbiger Show right here on the True Talk Radio Network. Thank you so much for joining us. I'll be back on. I'll be back on in the next couple of days. I will be back on.
Please tell the people.
Until then, I wish you health and happiness and safety.
Me too.
And I will see you next time right here on the Howie Silbiger Show on the True Talk Radio Network. Have a great, day, 2 days, whatever it is, till we meet again.